It's a great day to be a coyote. Welcome, Coyote Nation, to another episode of Back to Pack Podcast, where we are going to be bringing you all of your favorite games, memories, and of course, discussion with our fellow coyotes. As a disclaimer, we have no affiliation to the University of South Dakota. This is a podcast ran by fans for fans. The ideas and comments do not represent the university. Our opinions are our own. Be sure to find us on Twitter at BackToPackSD. With that being said, let's jump in. What's going on, guys? Grant, how you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Another fine Monday after a great Saturday. So we are back at it.
Well, yes, we are. Shoot, I'm having fun this season.
It's a blast. It's not very often that you see results like this, especially in conference play. Sometimes you see it early in the season, but boy, oh boy, the train keeps rolling for these Yotes.
Exactly, and I really don't know what to say. I with this just because it's so mind blowing. I really didn't know where I was going to go with this, but one thing that I think I texted it to you and the group. I think this team beats last year by a couple touchdowns.
It's funny you bring that up because one of my other Coyote fan friends said the exact same thing. He said, "Boy, last year's team was good, but this year's team is on another level." So, which is exactly what you want to see, right? I mean, a lot of returning starters, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So you kind of hope and expect that, and we're seeing that for sure this year. So it's been a lot of fun,
Yes,
no doubt about it.
it's crazy. Last year, going into this game, I kind of in my head visualized this similar to what the Indiana State game was. Do you remember much about that one?
Vaguely, but yes, I think that was a road game, correct?
Yes.
Yep,
So that
yep.
game, if I remember correctly, we ended up winning that game. I think it was like 24-7, but Indiana State was supposed to be that punching bag for us.
Hmm.
They were sandwiched between some tough games. I'm pretty sure it came right after the Southern Illinois game, and that game got over. I'm like, oh, that's not what we needed to do. And then this team goes on the road in the exact same situation, punching bag. D-Day's coming up, definitely an overlooked capabilities situation, and absolutely annihilates them.
They really do. I mean,
Hmm.
you're exactly right. It's one of those things where, especially anytime you hit the road, like regardless of opponent, you're in conference, road games should be more difficult. But I mean, we all know the result, 59-0. I mean, it is crazy. One, to pitch a
Hmm.
shutout is insane, but then two, you're scoring 8 touchdowns in a game to go along with it. It's just domination on both sides of the ball. Like it'd be one thing to dominate one side, but total domination. And
Yep.
I should say with that, I'm going to get on this early. I mentioned it to you early. I owe an apology to the defense for my score prediction, right? I
Yep.
said my score prediction was 49-20. That I'm looking at you, defense. If you're watching, I'm sorry. I was so wrong. Zero
Yeah.
is incredible. I don't think I would have predicted that, but every week it's the same story. The defense dominates the game every
Yep.
time, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon. I really don't.
No, I really don't either. And it's funny. I think it was Jordan Decker put it out there, a little stat about this defense currently, and he said something along the lines of USD is giving up 9.5 points per game
Right.
currently. And that's
Nuts.
including the Wisconsin game. If you take it down to what I would call equal competition per se, where at least
Right.
they're FCS, we are only allowing 4.75 points a game.
It's nuts, right? It's just crazy stats. So,
Hmm.
uh, we talked about this too, and this game especially started that same way. I said it last week about the Southern Illinois game that the game was over in the first quarter.
Yep.
And here we are again on Monday talking about this game, and it was the same exact thing. The game was over after one quarter of play, right? Now I know
Yep.
that's a little cliche, but literally it was. I mean, it was 21-0. We talked about this. You can't spot this defense a 21-point lead and think that anything good's going to happen. I don't think you want to give this
Exactly.
defense a 7-point lead, right? And anything's good is going to happen. So
No.
it's incredible, truly incredible. This defense.
So the one thing, and you and I were talking about this off air before we got on, and this is kind of my view of the season and where my only true concern is. And this sounds really weird to think about, but my concern is we haven't played a full game yet.
We haven't.
And so what does that look like when we do? And I would love to see this team get tested. Not you and I. We're going to blow them out. But, maybe Youngstown State keeps it within a two possession game for a while, and then we kind of just step on the throats and end the game at the end. But I would really be curious to see what it looks like and how we handled that bit of adversity at the end.
Yeah, it's funny. What a great problem to have, right? Is that every game we've basically had it over by the fourth quarter for sure, to the point where we're getting backups in, and we'll talk about as we break down the game, of course. But both
Mhm.
teams, both Murray and USD, were pretty much disinterested with the game halfway through the third quarter in this game. I think both teams were ready to kind of go home and say, "Hey, this one's over," right? So, but you're
Yep.
right. We do have to put 4 quarters of football together. We know what the schedule lies ahead, and we'll have to at some point. But to your point, uh, I don't know. That may not be for a couple more weeks. If we're lucky, maybe we're spoiled and we're talking like brats right now. But it could be a couple more weeks before they get a true test. To your point.
And you know what? Who knows? We might not be tested at all this season. We could just go through and just skate right through the Missouri,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Just go through the Missouri Valley, beat people 59-0, like just a normal thing for the Missouri Valley, not competitive at all. So
It's one of those things. I don't pray for much, but there's one that I pray for.
there you go. There you
So
go.
I think it's time we jump into the game itself
Yeah, for sure.
against Murray State.
Hmm.
Which you're right. You just had to watch the highlights from the first quarter, maybe a little bit of the second quarter, where you could finally, maybe try to find some cons of what happened in the game. But this O line, this rushing attack is on a completely different level.
You you're 100% right. The offensive line continues to just dominate the line of scrimmage, dominate the point of attack, to where it makes life easy on two of what I think are the two of the best running backs in the Missouri Valley, maybe the country, from what
Yep.
we've seen. Now, granted, the offensive line makes that easier for them, but you know, Tice was unbelievable. I mean, the way he was
Yep.
running in the first and second quarter, he was a man on a mission, right? And he was not going to be stopped. So the
Hmm.
combination of him with the yards after contact, where the contact's not coming until 7 yards down the field,
Exactly.
that's a great spot to be in for a running back. So I mean that the the offensive line is just dominating right now, which is
Mm.
fantastic to see.
And it's crazy. With running backs, it's tough. The more miles you put on them, you think they slow down. They take some more bruises with it. Honestly, Tice in his sixth year is the best running form I have ever seen him in. It has been unbelievable.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Tice is probably running the best that I've seen him in his career, and I think one, experience.
Yep.
This O line's good, but two is, I think, knock on wood, Tice is fully healthy for the first time in quite some time too. I feel like in years past he's kind of dealt with some nagging injuries, so it's good to see
Mhm.
that, and I think they'll continue. And with the two-headed, three-headed, called a four-headed monster that we've got in the backfield, that takes some pressure off of him as well. That we're not
Yes.
asking him to carry the ball 25 times a game too. So all good things from that standpoint for sure. But
And you know what? People called me crazy. I'm just gonna say this. People called me crazy last year when I said USC had the best running back room in the nation. I was calling this early. And yeah, we lose Mike Mansory and actually Nate Thomas. I was a big fan of Nate Thomas,
as was I.
but this running back room still up there. And we still haven't even seen what LJ Phillips Foley can do. Because I think he's kind of gonna be a clone of what Tice can do. That bowling ball kind of kid.
Yeah, I had that noted on my notes. I thought LJ in the carries he got looked very good, very
Mhm.
shifty, very balanced. So you're right. We with the running back room as deep as it's ever been that I can remember, especially in the Division One era. So a great great point there on depth.
But the best running back of them all against Murray State, probably gonna have to go with Nevin.
That's right. Only needs 2 carries to turn it into a, 70
Mhm.
plus yard touchdown, right? Who would have thought?
Yeah, exactly. That was insane. His first carry goes for 74 yards against them. Walks into the end zone. I don't think he got touched at all. Like,
Yeah,
not even
he
just at the line of scrimmage.
no, I think he seemed to look just as surprised as we were that there was just green grass ahead, right? He just put his head down and
Uh-huh.
maybe thought he was running out of gas there a little bit at the end. That's a long run, so I'm not going to blame him. But that was fun to see. It's always fun to see the backups get in there, get some action, have some big plays. So that was fun.
Exactly. So yeah, no, I think if you only walk away with one pro of the game, it was that. The running back room, the O-line room, that's the pro. And you can be done talking about the offense. But Aiden went out there and threw for 221 and a touchdown.
Hmm.
And I will say, I did have some concerns with his game. There's a few things I noticed. One, two underthrown esque balls to Karan. One, Karan made a wonderful adjustment to, was able to get it 60-yard gain. The other picks, it was an interception into triple coverage. Those are really my first cons. Just I don't know where his arm strength went.
Yeah, I thought about that a little bit. I will say first quarter, Aiden was surgical. Like I
Yes.
was when I went back and watched it on Sunday, he was hitting all the spots. He made some throws around defenders that I thought were fantastic, kind of even putting his arm into the slot a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, to your point, I also noted that too, those long balls. I don't know if those are slow developing plays where, I mean, Adams has to be one of the fastest guys in the field. So I almost wonder, how quickly can he stretch that field to where all of a sudden now we're looking at a 50, 60-yard throw, right? Which is no easy
Yep.
task for any quarterback. But to your point, the one pick, um, I think we can live with that one. It was a fourth and long, or yeah, fourth and long
Third and long.
situation, third and long situation.
Yep.
So it was effectively a punt. So I think Aiden kind of knew that, thought he'd kind of throw it up there. But to your point, the pass was underthrown. I think he'd like to have that one back and hopefully lead it into a touchdown there. But um,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, a couple of them, right? There's a couple throws, especially on rollouts where he left them short. Um, I mean, overall, I guess I don't have too many concerns with that type of stuff. It's ones that he can make. He'll make them in the future. That long ball, I
Exactly.
think, will develop as well. So
Yeah. The long ball, it's not as concerning per se. I think the big thing he needs to learn to do with Karan and because he has outthrown him once, but for the most part, Karan's had to come back to him.
yeah,
And I think the adjustment Aiden needs to look for is something along the lines of where he leads the receiver not down the field, but to the meat of the field. So he can still hit him in stride, but now he's more planing towards the out of bounds line, get the ball, run up, touchdown.
yeah. It's also funny. I was thinking about. I'm just thinking about pass receivers, and no disrespect to any pass receivers, but I have to assume that Adams is the fastest receiver Aiden's
Yes.
had to this point by far. Jones Logan is obviously there as well, but so I almost wonder too, is there times where it's is he outrunning the route, so to speak, to a certain degree,
Yeah.
right? But nonetheless, I think you're right. We'd like to see wouldn't hurt my feelings to see him overthrow Adams just a couple times and see, because I have a feeling he's a hard guy to overthrow.
He's done it once.
Yeah,
I did text one of the coaches giving him a
hmm
hard time. No, but I think where my concern truly comes out with Aiden being left-handed, he was rolling out to the left. Now, those are the easy rollouts for a lefty where you can throw, you have full control of your body. It's pretty easy to continue on per, as a normal pass for the most part. But he had two. One, he short hopped to a receiver about 12, 13 yards downfield, and it only
hmm
made it like 8 yards. And then the next one, it just wasn't anywhere close. And that's really where the surprise comes. I started questioning arm strength on the short hop one because 13-yard throw, pretty much straightforward kind of pass. That's what surprised me. It should be a fairly simple play on his part.
Yeah, those 2 I think were pretty uncharacteristic, and I think you saw in both of them his reaction, like, he was super upset with himself too,
Yep.
so I think 9 out of 10 times that ball comes out on target, but to your point, in critical moments, sometimes we're gonna need that to be there every time, so, I don't have too much concerns about that stuff. We'll, something to keep an eye on, of course, but, for the most part, I was super happy with the way he operated, and to your point, super efficient again with 16 of 22, and I think we just those 4 incompletions, I think we talked about all 4 of them, so it's always good when you can pinpoint
Exactly.
the individual incompletions and go, "Oh, man, we could have had these back. You could have been 20 of 22," or whatever, so a good problem to have nonetheless.
Yep, exactly. And we also won 59-0.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
absolutely,
it,
yeah.
we have to jump through the film. You can't just gas this team up. You got to find some of the bads in there, but it's very tough.
It's so tough. It's so tough. I was gonna say, even going back to the game, we talked about Q1, essentially the game's over, right? It's 21-0.
Exactly.
Like I said, my notes were Bauman was surgical, Tice was just a pinball in there. The defense just controlled the point of attack every time. Again, kind of I won't say a negative, but kind of an interesting game flow is that even after being down 21-0, Murray State, the defense kind of came alive in that second
Hmm.
quarter. Um, and barring I mean, it's a great forced fumble. It was truly a forced turnover. It wasn't some bonehead mistake by Murray. We
Yep.
forced the fumble. I believe it was Gary Bryant the third who punched it out at the goal line. But without
Yeah.
that turnover, Murray was kind of marching down the field. They looked like they were about to score. And obviously, turnovers are what they are. That's why they're so crucial to the game. But
Hmm.
they kind of came alive a little bit. And I think, you know, on those passes we were talking about, I think all those passes that we just talked about actually came in the second quarter as well. The short
Hmm.
hop, the long one for a pick. So um, it was kind of interesting. But in my mind, I kind of went, "Oh gosh, Murray State." I don't want to say won the second quarter because they didn't. We still, I think it was
We
three
still won
zero.
it.
We still won it, but there's certainly flashes where you went, "Oh," and then after that, that was about it. That's where the signs of life from Murray started, and they flatlined starting the third quarter
Exactly.
for the most part. So it's that was really the only thing that kind of was interesting to me. I really thought Murray was going to kind of roll over, and eventually they did, but they didn't as early as I thought.
No, you think going up, and the field goal was towards the end of the or quarter too. So it was
It was
21
yeah.
nothing
Hmm.
because we closed out the half with the field goal, didn't we? Or
We
pretty darn
did.
close.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, 21 nothing through that. You, it's one of those concerns with an offense with what they have and what we saw them do against UND. You never wanted to give them any sort of hope, and
Right.
I thought we almost did. But yeah, you're right. And it's funny enough, I tweeted it as right after it happened with Grace actually getting recovering the fumble.
Yeah.
That guy was having flashbacks to Sacramento State. He wanted to
Oh
take that to
yeah.
the house so bad.
Oh yeah, yeah. We were a lazy quarterback away from a scoop and score for sure. But quarterback didn't give up on the play. He was right there for it. But there's a lot of quarterbacks that would have said, "I'm good on that," and taken
Exactly.
made a business decision, as they say. But yeah, there was
He's
some
a big
flashes
boy.
there for sure. Yeah, yeah.
So with that, I want to kind of turn it over to four turnover. Well, I should say three turnovers forced by the defense, one
Hmm.
by the special teams, and I want to give a special shout out to Matt Walsh on this. He actually was the one that recovered the punt, the muffed punt. And there's just a little special story with him there. I know he doesn't get in a lot. He's not involved. He's a huge contributor when it comes to special teams. But I remember last year after a game, we were walking out of the dome, and we walked out. We sat on the west side, and went out the south doors. And my girls asked, "Well, can I get a picture with the football player?" At this point, I had no idea they met at that northwest door with their family and whatnot. And as we're walking, I was like, "I don't know. I don't think so. I think they're in the locker room showering up, getting ready to go." And sure enough, I see some linemen at that northwest door. It's like, okay, let's pop in and see. And so we walked in, and it's just a madhouse, and their family celebrating with their uh, relatives that are there. And I just tapped Matt on the shoulder. I was like, "Hey, my kids would wanted to get a picture with a football player. You okay with that?" And he just got more excited than anything on that. He just got worked up. His parents were there, and his mom freaked out. She thought it was the coolest thing ever. She's like, "I need to get a picture of this too. This is so cool," and stuff like that. And with that, every punt, every kickoff, every kick return, every punt return, I'm watching 13 actually more than what I'm watching of everybody else because you know what? These guys are humans out there, and finding a connection with them is pretty cool.
For sure. That's the definition of how you start to have a favorite player, right? For both
Exactly.
you and your kids, it's just simple gestures like that. And again, that's like one of the not shocking to hear that about these Kyle guys because these guys are
Yep.
dialed in, but it sounds like it's a good group of guys.
Yeah, exactly. And you bring you made me laugh a little bit because even my wife goes, "Hey, look, it's Matt." She can't she can't tell you the difference between any other player out there, but nope,
No,
it's Matt.
it is.
So
It is.
it's fun. It's fun watching him, and it gives you just that little extra to cheer for, to get excited about, to see something cool happen. But I do want to turn it back to now the 3 turnovers forced by the defense.
Yeah.
This defense is opportunistic, absolutely insane.
Yeah, they really are. And I believe, like you said, we had 4 turnovers. I think of the 4 turnovers, 2 of them were really, I should say 3 of them were really forced. We had a muffed punt that I would consider maybe more of a,
Yep.
snafu on Murray State's end, right? But speaking of that, Murray State special teams awful last week and awful the week before and gave us some gifts on that. But really the turnovers, to your point, were true takeaways, right? Like the forced
Yep.
fumble was a textbook punch the ball out forced fumble. Shorter's interception was awesome because he literally takes the ball away from the wide receiver. That pick was so
Yes.
great. That one got me fired up. Um, and then you have the tip ball, right? Which off the
By
receiver,
Hardman.
but high,
Yeah.
yep, in traffic, defenses there. I mean, 3 coyotes were around the ball when that thing popped up. So, uh, yeah, the turnovers finally came, which remember at SIU, we had no turnovers, which I was shocked by,
Mm-mm.
right? Neither team had turnovers. I really thought we were going to force them. And those finally came here against Murray State, which is good.
Yep, exactly. And I was just kind of taking a look as you were talking there through ESPN just to see um, what our turnover margin is right now. And I just got 2 more to do. I didn't think I'd get too much into this, but it's something to definitely think about. And with it, I mean, it's important to every game, and it completely killed Murray State when we punched that one out at the goal line. That's really,
It did. It really did.
yeah.
As I say, I've said it, of course, but I think the game was over at 21-0, but that certainly sucked the life out of them because they did. They had some
Hmm.
momentum. They were moving the ball, and that just killed it for them. I mean, even though we only got 3 out of it, turning it the other way, we are up against the clock a little bit at the end of the half, but that just really kind of sealed the deal for them. But um, yeah, that was great opportunistic ball by the
And so
defense.
I took a look at it. Currently on the season, the Yotes are +8 in the turnover margin, which absolutely fantastic. You'll take that 5 games in 10 out of 10 times. So they are opportunistic, they are hungry, and they swarm.
They do.
Seldomly do we see a single USD tackler.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often. It's funny you bring that up because that was one of the notes I had. If you look at the stat sheet for defensive stats, there's not one player that had 12 tackles, 13 tackles. Our leading tackler had 5 total tackles, but we had 7 players that had 4 plus tackles. So you're exactly right. It's the swarm tackling and they're a sound tackling, or excuse me, yeah, swarming the ball and a sound tackling team that we have on defense.
Yep.
Um, and with that, I one of the notes I took away, obviously in a win like this, everything's working, right? 59-0, everything on offense is working, special teams is
Hmm.
working, defense is working. The more I thought about it, against Murray State, after showing some offensive life against North Dakota, I think the giving up 0 is more impressive than the scoring 59.
Yeah.
Both ultra impressive, but I think pitching the shutout is just crazy to me, especially what they showed against North Dakota and how good of a running attack they had where they got nothing going against us.
Exactly, and on the road too, a shutout in their own stadium,
Yeah,
which they do kinda have a neat stadium. I saw
they
some
do.
guys they were camping on our sideline, tailgating and camping on our
Yeah.
sideline, and then massive, stadium on the home side. I thought that was kinda cool. I'd love to walk out in my camper,
Right.
enjoy a Coyote football game.
Right, right. No, it is. It's cool for sure. So,
Well, and the good news is too, this is the last game we have to worry about where the heat affects us. You could definitely tell that was one of the biggest cons, and I think we didn't adjust to it properly in the second quarter, and it kinda seemed like it was some self-inflicting wounds too.
yeah, I think you're right. At the end of the second quarter, you saw the fatigue set in. Saw the fatigue set in kind of in the third quarter with the guys starting to come out. Then that changed quickly, right? Kind of into the fourth
Mhm.
quarter. But you're right. The heat's really no longer a factor at this point in the year. I don't think there's any games that will have to deal with the
We
heat. It'll be the opposite, right? We might be dealing with some cold weather here as we get November, but
we got 2 out of out in the element games left, Youngstown and SDSU, so
I was gonna say, yeah, Brookings and Youngstown are the only two,
mhm.
so it probably won't be a factor. But yeah, one thing I did just honestly didn't even hit my radar prior to the game until you're watching the game. You go, "Ooh, that sun is beating down a little hard on the guys today."
And shout out Bob rocking a tie, long sleeve, taking the brunt of the sun.
Oh,
Didn't even look like he
he
was sweating over there.
that's oh yeah, and that's such a classic look. I'll uh I'll save that for another day. But there's gonna be a we'll bring this up later. I brought it up to you. We're gonna have a bob out one of these
Yeah,
days. Everybody's gonna rock the white shirts with the red ties with the slacks. We'll get about 50 bobs up in the stands with our headsets on, but that's for another day. I'll bring that up at another time. So the but yeah, Bob was rocking it. He's a classic look.
so, I will say though, I think the only con I can really talk about when it comes to this defense from that game, that no huddle, hurry up offense that Murray State ran.
Hmm.
That's I mean, that's where we saw them get some momentum. That's where they kind of moved the ball on us. That is a concern with offenses that we have coming down the road.
Yeah, because to your point, that's really the only success Murray had was running
Mhm,
out of that no huddle. So yeah, I'm curious to see if we were just in a, in a package that was a bad mismatch and Murray State identified that for that particular drive. I have a feeling that's probably the case. Um,
mhm.
but it is something of concern because you're right. There's going to be other teams that will certainly do that. And, North Dakota State's going to do it. South Dakota State's going to do it. They're notorious for it, right? To find that mismatch, exploit it. But yeah, definitely have to keep an eye on that as well as the year progresses. But yeah, that was one thing that's really the only success they found all
Yep.
day long.
Exactly. And I think we'll save that talking point for when we get to a team that I'm concerned about running that.
Yeah.
They they're completely unmatched to what USD brought to the field. And I do have some concerns. I do think Murray State will have the ability to grow up and settle in to the Murray State or into Missouri Valley, especially with their coach, with the background that he has, some
Hmm.
NFL, working behind Saban, like that has a recipe to build something. So we'll see what he can do with that.
Yeah, we mentioned it, last week. There is just you're talking about two different programs in two completely different spots, right? They're in a full rebuild first year. They're going to have success. I think, like you said, their coach has a very impressive resume. They're showing it during the game.
Hmm.
They'll find success. I have a feeling with this team. I think they're going to find a couple wins in conference here as well this year. I don't
Yep,
think they're going to get boat race through the whole season, but just two teams in two very different places. But um,
exactly.
I say before we move to the game balls for the game, I did want to make one other comment I forgot to mention earlier. One play that I'm starting to love that I typically don't love is the pitch run to Pierre Jr. That play, whenever we run it, and we ran it with Tice as well, for
Yep.
whatever reason, those linemen can get out in space, create the lanes, and Pierre is vision on that is
Yes.
so good. I think we got at least 15 yards every time we ran it, two of them being for touchdowns for
Yep.
Pierre Jr. So I would say look for that play to get mixed in more and more all the time because boy, we have a ton of success with that play.
Yeah, and I do think it definitely helps when you have the running backs that we have
Yeah.
back there.
Hmm.
Uh, but Charles, I mean, they complement each other so well. But Charles, don't give him a lane,
Yeah,
or it's over.
it is. He can put his foot in the ground and make you pay for it for sure.
Exactly. All right, I think it's time to switch over to game ball. Unless you got anything else.
Nope, that's it. I'm ready for the
Okay,
game balls.
perfect. Offense, I'm not going to take the one that you're going to say because I'll let you have that. I am going to go the entire O line, fully deserving of all of it. They've, I mean, honestly, game in and game out, they deserve it. But what they did kept Aiden protected for the most part. I know he got hit a couple times. Running backs, I don't really remember any running backs getting hit in the backfield on any plays.
Mm.
They, without them, none of what happened is possible. So the game ball, I think they use 5 balls in a game, so we can give all 5 out.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, we did it right. They got a game ball last week, right? I mean, it's so
Yes.
easy, and it's just that's where everything happens. That's where everything starts. So, um, I'm glad you said that one. And to your point, I had two names down just in case we never exchanged it before. We like to surprise each other, but obviously
Yep.
Travis Tice was on a whole nother level on
Yes.
Saturday. That's in my opinion. I think that may have been the best I've ever seen him run the ball in his career,
Mhm.
right? So, uh, the stats, I think a lot of folks who listen here probably already know, but 132 yards, 2 touchdowns, receiving touchdown where he got up and grabbed it out of the air.
That was a great catch.
That was a great catch, great throw, great
Mhm.
catch. He went up and got it, so he had a day. So Tice certainly needs to get a game ball as well. But I will shout out, and Missouri Valley already kind of did it for me, but Cron Adams, newcomer of the week. Uh,
Yep,
hard not to get excited about him as well. So a lot of good things
exactly.
going. But
All right, perfect. Now, I haven't been doing this the last few shows, actually any of our shows yet. So anybody that is watching with us live and has not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do. I have some fun ideas, but I need to get to 50 subscribers before I can get into those fun ideas. So please
good.
subscribe before you get off. But also follow closely. We have a special announcement for our Thursday show. All I say is we got something brewing.
I love it. Hey, don't forget defensive game balls. Are we doing a defensive
Oh,
game ball?
oh, okay. We can do that.
Do you want
I,
to? We did one last week. We don't have to if you don't want to.
well, the defense, it was just so defense. It was it
It is.
was all of them.
I was just
So
going to say that I mentioned it earlier, right? Like there was nobody who carried the load for the defense. But I didn't want to rain on your parade if you had one teed up.
no, so I do have one, but it's not going to be a player. It's going to be Coach Johansson.
Yeah, there you go.
Honestly, we're going to keep it easy. Called a perfect game, settled into his adjustments when they went fast, and we never saw the up tempo no huddle affect the game again.
It-
So
yeah,
shout out to him on that adjustment.
agree. Uh, I was going to say similar to what you're talking about as far as preserving a shutout. One is so insanely hard to pitch a shutout in college football,
Hmm.
especially in conference. So my defensive game ball was going to be Gary Bryant for basically one play where he forced the
Yep.
fumble and saved the shutout. I think anything other than a turnover there certainly would equated to 3 points, but more than likely was going to be a touchdown. So shout out to that. That's a big play, save the
Yep.
shutout, and those feel good when your defense to see a goose egg at the end of 4 quarters.
Exactly. Now, I will just say for all the Yote fans watching now, still start thinking about your score prediction for the upcoming episode. Looking at you, Yote fan. I don't want to have to call you out again.
I
And
already made
just
my
so,
apology.
and he did apologize too. So the spread currently is 34. Cows are favored by 34 points. That is a big spread, but we'll see what we have to say about that on Thursday.
We'll see where that settles in on Thursday. So I do have one more thing before we go, Jake. I told you I was going to get on my
Yeah.
soapbox. I
Yep.
know
Go for it.
everybody. I know everybody listening here certainly has their D-Days tickets secured, but if there was ever a time in Coyote football, in the recent seasons to sell out the dome, it's this Saturday. So get your tickets, get your friends to get their tickets, tell everybody this is the game to go to. There's only one home game in October. There's only one home game in October. This is the one to get to. So you're gonna see me all over social media this week. I'm gonna be throwing it out. I think the slogan's gonna be pack the dome, but you're gonna see me tweet.
Yep.
You're gonna see me on the Facebook fan page. We gotta pack the dome. So
exactly. Let's get that thread started. We'll get some people fired up about this.
I was gonna say pack the dome. If you see me say pack the dome, send one out yourself. Get everybody there. Let's get 10,000 in the dome on Saturday.
Perfect. All right. You have a great night, Grant.
Yes. As always, go Yotes.
Go Yotes.